So this is how I lost over $700,000. So first off, let me tell you how I got the money. So, like, I'm sure you guys have in your city, wherever you're from, you've heard those commercials on the radio where like, oh, in a wreck, get a check. Or like, you getting hit by an 18-wheeler, uh, you can make all this money and get a settlement and get a check. So that happened to me. Yeah, I got hit by an 18-wheeler, right? So I'm in the passenger seat, my brother's driving, we're riding down the road by our house at the time we're living at. 18-wheeler runs the stop sign and literally T-bones the car, and the car bends around the 18-wheeler, and I black out, and that's my first near-death experience. At the time, I break both of my legs, like literally both legs at the same time. I break a rib. I spent 11 days in Grady, 2 surgeries on both legs. I got a rod in my left leg. I broke my femur. I got a plate on my tibia because it was fractured. So my settlement was like 700 racks, right? So how did I lose that money? And if anybody ever asks, I didn't get a settlement, right? So how did I lose that money? So at the time I had I spent about I spent that summer, like the next 9 months, 6 months in physical therapy and chiropractic to learn how to walk again. So what I did was I got my real estate license because I always wanted to invest in real estate. And so I was like, okay, well, since I'm not dead, I can really capitalize on this opportunity. So got my license, studied the market for a little bit, so I knew how to invest into real estate. And then after about 8 months of having my license and not spending any of the money, just it's in the bank, I jumped into real estate investing, and I found a quadruplex that was $100,000, needed a total renovation, but I knew it could be at least worth. The units were gonna rent for like $750 each. That's like 3,000. It could be at least worth 350,000, 320, 30,000, and then they're asking 100,000 for it. So I'm like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity. So I go and get some contractors, right? I'm looking for contractors, and I'm just driving around. At the time, I have a Prius. I'm just driving around in my Prius, trying to find some contractors. And I found these guys who were like 2 neighborhoods over, working on a house. So I asked them, I said, hey, will you guys come to this other property and give me like your estimate on what you think it would cost to rehab it? And they're like, man, you're not serious. I'm like, yeah, I am serious, man. I got like, they're like, man, for me to do that, it's like $250, $500, one of the two. And I'm like, oh, well, shoot, I got $500 right now. Like, this deal is gonna go really quick because it is a really good deal, and good deals sell fast. So I gave them like the 500 on the spot. Then we go over to the place. They look through the building. They're like, oh yeah, okay. The floor in the back of the building is caving in upstairs. It's got this huge tree the size of a bus. Like if a bus fell into a ditch, that's how round it is. Like it's huge, growing into the foundation of the home. And they're like, yeah, man, it's gonna cost $60,000 to get this place brought back to life. And I was like, okay, 60,000. I was like, well, I'm about to pay 100,000 for it. It costs 60,000, 160. It's gonna be worth 320 minimum. So like, those are really good margins. I'm about to like basically just double my money. So I ended up I brought them back to my real estate office, got their license, made copies of the license, drew up a contract with them, drew up the best contract I could think of as far as what they were supposed to be doing for their contracting portion of the bargain, which include like a time schedule, me basically signing off on whatever the different contractors were for the different aspects of getting the home renovated, like plumbers, electricians, HVAC, and etc. And then also getting their signatures on it, and then just getting their experience, like what talking to them about what they've done. However, come to find out, like throughout that whole process, um, I ended up giving these. I'm paying these people in cash, so I don't have any receipts, and I'm really rushing through what I should have never even rushed through because I had cash to do the project with. But I was like, man, you know what? They said we can get this job done in 60. This project done in 60 days. It's supposed to take 60 days. I'm paying you guys $60,000. Let's get it going, because that way I can finish this. I can go do something else. Naivety. And this is like, they just end up taking advantage of me. They finesse me because they're like, really, their contractors are not showing up to the job. Then when it comes to like the simple stuff where it's like for instance, this tree, right? This tree is not something that is like, it's not some like toothpick type of tree. This is a huge mammoth of a tree, right? Then also like the little stuff of like getting a foundation wall put in. At a certain point, I was like, man, I'm paying you this. I'm paying you cash for this stuff, and I trust you. But some of these prices are not. They're ridiculous. Like it was like $11,000 for a retaining wall, which maybe some retaining walls are $11,000. But I like did the math on the number of blocks that were the components of the wall. I was like, man, the wall, like the materials, only cost $2,000, and you're gonna charge me $11,000. So the labor is $9,000 for a retaining wall that isn't even a full retaining wall. It's only like a partial wall. I was like, what? That is like. At that point, I called in my dad. I was like, Dad, you're a contractor. Not really, but you deal with these type of people a lot, so I need you to like basically like talk to them for me, because like this project is getting out of hand. And when it comes down to it, my dad confronts them for me, and he's like, man, the dude who's the contractor is like, man, this is $100,000 job. And I'm like, at the time, I'm really just thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I have $100,000. Like, if it was gonna cost $100,000, I got the money. But the issue was, he's a crook. That guy was a liar. He knew it was cost way more than what he bid the job for. He knew he was gonna finish it, because he thought he could just throw out a number, that I didn't have enough money to come through with it, that I would run out of money to finish the job, and so that I wouldn't actually ever finish the job, or he wouldn't finish the job. Either way, he never anticipated there being enough money to actually, me having enough money to do the full job. And so at the same time as I'm doing that project, I end up buying another property, another quadruplex, for around for a little bit less, for $86,000, which is actually the one you see me sitting in here now. So this was like whenever I bought it. So that property needed also a full renovation. So again, I have the cash for that. So I actually paid these guys, like that same contracting duo, this white man and this black guy. There's an old white man, old guy, and a black guy, black man. Partners. Paid him $20,000 to do the roof over here for these 4 units, because they're separate. And it's like, I just didn't get enough quotes. Like, I had gotten the roof done before, and getting a roof done was like $3,000 to $4,000. But for them to charge me $5,000 for these, like it just wasn't competitive, right? It wasn't competitive. So long story short, I fired those with my dad's help, I fired those contractors. Then I ended up firing my dad because he was leaving his equipment over there, and the people he was bringing weren't. They were just like terrible workers. They just were bad contractors also. So I was like, I fired him too. Then I ended up becoming a general contractor, and I was hiring and interviewing people, plumbers, roofers, um, cabinet people, carpenters, handyman, electrical, HVAC. I ended up finding all of these people and put them on the job because I've always said, and I've always done this, like, I give other people jobs. I give other people jobs. And that's what I was doing. And that's what I continue to do. So, I finished it. I finished that project. And when it was all said and done, it ended up costing me about probably like $220,000. The second project, I had to do the same thing. I actually found my own contractors, found the cabinets, did get a referral to a builder from my dad, and he came in with actually a lot. The builder had a lot of really good contractors, like some guys who do the installation, the people who do the drywall, the cabinet people, the guys who did the flooring were they could have been, they knew they could have been better, but they didn't give better. Well, I knew that I expected more, right? I had higher expectations than what they delivered. Because they knew they could have came back and tidied up like the work, especially because I said something to them about it and they ignored me. So though, and the electrician. So all right, so that job, that project with the second quadruplex, all in, I was at about 200 and just say $200,000. So right, so it's just like, okay, like how is that adding up to 700,000? Don't worry, I'm getting there. So the rest of the money I had I was spending it on basically like just, I had this bad mentor. I was spending a lot of the money on her. She was basically just finessing me out of the money. I didn't know what to do with it, and so she was taking the money from me. And then what ended up happening was I had some more capital in the bank. Well, actually, by the time I finished those two projects, I didn't have any money left over because I had that bad mentor. She was taking a lot of the money. I was spending money not wisely. Can't really say for certain where exactly it all went. Besides, if not to the project. Where else did it go? I'll think about it at some point because it went somewhere. So what I did was I refinanced both of those buildings because it was so bad. I didn't even have enough money to pay these contractors to finish the second one. Like I ended up like making them wait to get paid. So I refinanced the buildings. I got a really bad interest rate. Not really bad, but like I should have just waited and improved my credit score. So by that time I had already joined another mastermind, paid $25,000 for that mastermind, met a mentor through that mastermind, quote unquote mentor. Just another guy doing real estate who is older than I am. He hooked me up with a hard money lender. And I refinanced the property. Pulled out that equity. So I ended up pulling out about $250,000 between both properties. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start this operation, wholesaling. I'm going to do a whole lot of direct mail and bandit signs and put a team together. So like, it failed horribly. Had no idea how to actually do the marketing and how to get like a return on investment, because I was spending like $6,000 a week every week on postcards that I only got one deal from. Like, and that one deal was like $8,500. So I was like, man, I spent so like $6,000 for like 2 or 3 months on postcards and didn't get a return on nearly anything. Like, usually like $8,500. I'm like, man, like, that was a colossal waste of money. The team, I put the team together okay enough. No, actually, but the people on the team, I just didn't have like, no, I didn't put it together. I didn't put the team together well. I had the wrong people in the wrong seats on that team. Um, it was 5 of us, and I set it up to like the split was cool between like the people who were bringing in the deals, people who were selling the deals, but the people who were doing the work were not. They weren't doing the work. Like, they had all these other excuses why it wasn't working, or it was just it just should have been. It could have been different. But I was like, but none of that stuff was effective, and so I lost that money. I lost that money. So it was all said and done. I ended up selling one of the buildings and cashing out about 50,000. However, I ended up losing about $700,000 over that period of dealing with those terrible contractors, having a bad mentor, various other just poor money management choices. Like, it's just a lot of stuff. Oh man. And one of the worst things I feel the worst about is that I had 8 units and a house paid off in cash. So free cash flow, 8 properties, averaging about let's say $775 each a month. It's like, that's like 775 times 8, 7 times 8. I don't know. It's like 56, 57, close to $6,000 of free cash flow every month. Like, I was too urgent, not patient enough to just be like, man, I'm getting paid checks like 6,000 a month. I can just like start something up with that, start a business with that, and then not even touch the nest egg, because it's 6,000 a month. Like, that's 70,000 free cash flow every month, passive income. I also had a bad property manager who she just put terrible tenants in there, so that took a long time. And they knew I owned the property. It took a long time to get them out. It took like 6 months. And it was like four people. Like, these people who they live weekly rental. They live there like chronically. And she was like, it's the same amount for this place that's $650. I'm gonna bump you up. They couldn't handle it. They could not handle the extra responsibility. So they stopped paying. Had to evict them. And there's more to that story about how I lost the $700,000. But what were the lessons? I got a lot of general contracting experience, property management experience, estimating numbers experience, rehabbing, refinancing properties experience, locating deals. just overall BS factor meter, BS meter. I really figured out how to fire people. I was manipulated, so I have a very good idea of what that is. And unfortunately, it makes me more prone to being manipulated. However, this video is a great way for me to recognize why. Naivety, belief, rushing, desperate. Impatient. So I hope I'll be able to. You know what? Why I keep saying hopefully? Ain't no hope about it. The only way for me to get that money is to work for it. I got it because I was blessed, but that I'm not gonna break my legs again and get another whatever. Right? So the only way to get it back is to get it back. Like, and there is no getting it back. It's just get more. Get more, work for more, earn more, provide a value, receive compensation. I did also buy a lot of books, and like the books I bought have blueprints for me on how I could accumulate that amount of capital, put the plan in action, because it's not the same. Like the way that's like something when they say like, is this repeatable? No, it's not repeatable. That situation is not repeatable, and I don't want it to be either, because yeah, man, breaking my legs, both of them, that was not fun. You know, it's like I'm on my deathbed. Yeah, so went to the hospital, and I could tell that story too, just about that time I was at the hospital. Like, I'll probably do that later. But yeah, so this is the time I lost $700,000.